This is LBC. From Global, leading Britain's conversation with Eddie Mair.
I want to return now to something we've discussed many times on the programme after the Grenfell tragedy. We know that there are many thousands of people in this country who are living in buildings surrounded by cladding which is unsafe. And their principal worry, of course, is that they're living in a building which they feel is a death trap. There are other aspects to this too, financial aspects, very important ones. People can't sell their homes because their buildings are covered in cladding that's dangerous or hasn't passed official tests. Some people have been presented with bills for thousands of pounds. LBC reported recently that £12 million is being spent every month in London on fire wardens to patrol buildings with fire safety issues like dangerous cladding. People, quite understandably, worry about the safety of the building they're in, and so millions of pounds being spent every month on fire wardens. In December, the Housing Secretary, Robert Jenrick, told LBC he was confident significant progress will be made in resolving what's become known as the Cladding Crisis. If you are one of the people affected, I'd like to hear from you. Tell me, please, what's happening with you and your home, your sense of safety or otherwise. What's happening with the search for the right cladding, the right paperwork? And what's happening to your life and your plans? Are you stuck? How are your spirits? I wonder what the added pressure of lockdown, which everyone's going through, is doing to your existing worries about cladding, safety and perhaps a huge financial burden. 0345 6060 973. You can text 84850, tweet at LBC. As I say, we've talked about this before and will do again because it affects so many people, and also because our correspondent Rachel Venables has done such excellent work on bringing the detail of the story to wider attention. This morning here on LBC, on our programme Call Keir, the Labour leader made an announcement. With more, here once again is LBC correspondent Rachel Venables.
Eddie, you summarised it there perfectly, and it's really difficult to understand, to estimate the true extent of this problem, because there are millions of people right now in the UK living in flats affected by the post-Grenfell cladding crisis. Their homes are unsellable. They've been valued as worthless. In many cases as well, tragically, these places are downright dangerous. They're fire traps, and many people are facing right now eye-watering bills, sums of money reaching into the tens of thousands of pounds per flat to fix the defects on their building, as well as rocketing costs for things, as you mentioned, like fire wardens, insurance bills and service charges as well. Now, the Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, has been critical of the government's handling of this crisis up till now, but today on LBC, he went a significant step further, announcing that on Monday, Labour will force a vote in the House of Commons to try to protect flat owners from these bills.
On Monday, we're going to force a vote on this. Every now and again, the opposition get the chance to make an argument, to put a motion that can be voted on. And we're going to say to the government, you've got three things. Establish the extent of the problem, because if you can believe it, 3.5 years after Grenfell, the numbers even aren't sorted. Upfront funding to deal with it and remedy it, and to protect leaseholders from simply having to bear the cost. So practical issues to move this on, Giles. It's an intolerable situation. We are going to put it down for voting. I hope the government doesn't vote against us.
So this is a pretty expansive motion which they've got planned for Monday, Eddie. They want to, as you mentioned there, understand urgently and try and pull together a list really of all the dangerous buildings out there, and to be able to prioritise them as well. So to work out which are the most dangerous, which need to be fixed first. They also want the government to pay upfront to fix those buildings. Now, we're a little unsure of the details on that front. Labour say in the coming days they'll really clarify their position, because it's not clear, for example, example, who would qualify and also how much money they want to be made available. The government has put forward £1.6 billion in funding, which is available to apply for really on a first-come, first-served basis. But it's only applicable to certain buildings. Many have already been rejected in their applications, and it's thought that the real sum of money to fix this problem could be up to £30 billion, if not more. And Labour also say they want to protect leaseholders and taxpayers from the cost by pursuing those responsible for the cladding crisis. That's the crucial bit. Effectively, Her Majesty's opposition here have now thrown their weight behind the argument that leaseholders, flat owners should not pay, should not be forced to go bankrupt, to lose their life savings for what is effectively someone else's mistakes, their crimes, or their ineptitude in putting this dangerous cladding on the buildings that they happen to own a flat within.
I wonder, we probably don't have any indication yet, Rachel, as to how the government might respond to this vote on Monday. I'm also interested, are we really in the dark as to the full extent of this problem around the UK? You've been looking into this for a very long time. Do we still not really know?
Well, the latest estimation has suggested that there could be 4.6 million properties out there, so individual flats which are affected, so millions of people. Also, some research has suggested it could be as much as 16% of the actual sort of housing market, so the stock that's out there. So, as you can imagine, that's very often the bottom rung of the housing ladder, the market, as it were. So you've got sales falling through left, right and centre at the moment, with the bottom part of the chain collapsing as people are trying to sell their houses and they realise that the person towards the lower end of the sale cannot buy the flat they want, cannot sell the flat they want, and they're getting stuck. The scale is so huge, it's just hard to put a definite number on it, but we know it's absolutely catastrophic for the individuals affected, and there are so many of them. We know people have gone bankrupt already. We know many more face that unless there's a significant change. And you mentioned the government's response. We haven't had an official one yet. I have asked, but we do know that on Wednesday, Boris Johnson told MPs that Robert Jenrick, the Housing Secretary, would be producing a plan very shortly on how to fix this crisis. There are a number of bills making their way through Parliament at the moment. One of them's the Fire Safety Bill. Labour's also tabled an amendment to that, again to try and protect leaseholders from the costs. And I think that's going to be the real key thing to focus on amongst the sort of minutiae of detail, really. Do the government end up supporting this, and which MPs, which backbenchers end up supporting Labour on Monday? Because, of course, all of these affected leaseholders, they are somebody's constituent, and they've been very loud towards their MPs, making their position very clear. There are many MPs out there, backbenchers across party, who support this sort of amendment, who realise the impact it's having on ordinary people's lives.
Rachel, thank you as always for your reporting. LBC correspondent Rachel Venables. Well, as Rachel says, and we know this, we understand it from all our previous conversations, this affects a lot of people, and I'd like to hear from you as to how it's going with you, because I also know that more and more people find out on an almost daily basis that this thing which seems so distant and to be happening to other people is suddenly happening to them. How is lockdown affecting your thinking in all of this? 0345 60 60 973. You can text 84850. We had Rachel mention people who've gone bankrupt. I hope you haven't gone through that, but people have. Let's just share whatever experience you've had. You can also text 84850. Dr. Natalie Curitin is a research scientist living in an unsafe cladded flat, which, Natalie, you can't sell. Tell me about the flat and when you realised there was a problem. Welcome along.
Thanks so much for having us on. So for myself, I bought my flat 6 years ago. I was a first-time buyer, and I'd worked hard and saved hard to, get onto the property ladder and to do what I thought was the right thing. At the time that we bought, we had all the surveys done and there was no cause for concern. And it was about 3 years ago now that we come to get our remortgage and got told that we couldn't shop around for a remortgage because at the time valuations were coming back as £0 because, there was flammable cladding on buildings. And at the time we didn't know if our building fell into that category. And it was later on in that year that we found out that actually our building does have flammable cladding on the outside. And that's left myself and everyone else living in the building, fearful because it's dangerous cladding, but also completely trapped.
How much do you worry literally about your safety when you go to bed at night?
For me, it's a huge thing. Every night when I go to sleep, the last thing I think about is, if the fire alarm goes off, how am I going to get out? And that became very real for me last year. My building at 3:00 in the morning, our fire alarm went off, and as we were evacuating in the middle of the night, we could smell smoke and realised that there was a real fire in the building. And at that stage, you're thinking, am I going to get out? We all seen what happened at Grenfell, and it was tragic. And, it becomes very real at that point. So for me, it's a huge safety issue and something that you have to live with every day.
Over the years, have you made any progress in getting your cladding made safe?
So at the moment, there's been no progress in actually having the cladding made safe. We've applied to the fund that Rachel mentioned, the Building Safety Fund, and our building's been invited to apply. So we're in one of the fortunate positions that we've been invited to apply to that fund. However, the scope of the fund is quite limited. So although some of our fire safety issues might be covered, leaseholders are still likely going to be liable for other issues. And from my perspective, I was 13 years old when my building was completed, and I'm being asked to fix and pay to fix issues that happened that I had no part in the making of.
I've got lots of other questions for you. First of all, you talked about saving up and getting the flat. There is a Conservative government in power, has been for some time, and the Conservatives have always prided themselves on being the party of home ownership and applauding people like you in making the achievement of getting your own place. What do you think of the official government response?
For me, it's so disappointing because, as you say, the party of home ownership. So honestly, it feels like a kick in the teeth then, that I feel as though I've done the right thing and achieved what they say is the thing to do, the home ownership. And for them to now step away and not support us it's really disappointing. Initially, the Conservative government said that leaseholders should be protected from costs and that we're truly innocent in this. But recently we've heard the language change to that we should be protected from unaffordable costs, and that's a very loose term and something that as a leaseholder I'm really angered by.
And in terms of your life, it's bad enough that you go to bed every night worrying whether you're going to wake up, but in terms of your job, your hopes, your dreams, you're stuck. What effect is that having on you?
So for me, it's having a huge impact, and it sounds cliche to say it, but I've got my dream job. I worked really hard, I got a PhD, I now work as a cancer research scientist, which is a job that I love. But my job's relocating to a different city, and at the moment I'm unable to sell my home. So unless I'm able to resolve this issue and sell my home, I'm not going to be able to relocate with that job, and I'm likely going to need to leave the job that I literally love.
Thanks for talking to us. Dr. Natalie Curitan. So what about you? I hope you're not in a similar pickle to Dr. Curitan, but the point is many people are. Let me know how it is for you. Everyone's situation is different. What do you make of the official response? What do you think of what Keir Starmer said today? What is it you need? What would work for you? 0345 6060 973 is our number. You can text 84850 and tweet at LBC.